Alien queen furious after human male impregnates her on the first try. Sci-Fi. HFY Stories. Ethan Hale looked around the grand hall of the Valaris Prime Royal Spire with a mixture of awe and nervousness. The walls shimmered with a soft golden light, moving as if they were alive. He had seen many alien civilizations before, but this one was unlike anything he had encountered. Every detail of the spire screamed authority and age. The air was thick with an energy he could not name, a hum that seemed to penetrate the mind. The queen, Lyris, entered. Her form was tall and slender, covered in iridescent scales that reflected the light. Her many eyes regarded Ethan with cold precision. Silence fell over the hall as the queen approached the ceremonial platform. She moved with grace and purpose, each step echoing. Her attendants, a mix of nobles and advisors, bowed deeply but did not speak. It was clear that none dared to speak without her permission. Ethan had been sent here as part of a peace mission. Earth had tried diplomacy many times with the Valerians, but the species was proud and secretive. Their survival depended on a strong line of rulers, and they had not produced a new heir in over 200 years. The queen herself had been desperate to continue her bloodline, but all previous attempts had failed. The council had agreed to a ceremonial genetic compatibility test, but everyone believed it would be symbolic. Ethan approached the platform as instructed, his palms slightly sweating. He was guided by a senior advisor named Kale, a man of calm demeanor who explained the procedure step by step. Ethan had to place his hand on a crystalline console while the queen did the same. Biosignals would be recorded and analyzed to determine compatibility. Kale assured him it was safe. The moment the console activated, the room was bathed in a soft blue light. Patterns of energy danced between Ethan and Lyris. He felt a strange warmth spread through his chest. Lyris did not flinch. Her eyes remained locked on him, her expression unreadable. The energy pulses seemed to respond to him, almost as if recognizing his presence. Minutes passed. Then, alarms rang throughout the spire. Ethan jumped back instinctively. Lyris' eyes widened slightly, a flicker of shock crossing her usually composed face. Kale ran to the console, his fingers flying across the controls. Data streamed across the screens at a speed Ethan could not follow. "Impossible," Kale muttered under his breath. He looked up at the queen with wide eyes. "Your Majesty, the readings, it shows a successful conception. The child is viable." The room erupted into chaos. Advisors shouted in disbelief. Nobles argued over what this could mean. Some demanded Ethan be restrained, while others suggested he be revered. Ethan felt a cold sweat run down his spine. He had followed instructions perfectly. He had not expected anything beyond a routine procedure. Lyris' fury was immediate and terrifying. Her voice echoed through the hall like thunder. "How is this possible? How did a human accomplish what my species could not for 2 centuries?" Ethan raised his hands in defense. "Your Majesty, I followed the procedure exactly. I don't know why this happened." "I assure you it was not intentional." The queen paced back and forth, her multiple limbs moving with fluid precision. "Intentional or not, the result is catastrophic. The council will decide your fate, human. You may have endangered us all." Kale stepped forward cautiously. "Your Majesty, if I may, the science does not lie. The energy readings confirm a stable hybrid. The child is developing normally. In fact, it may enhance your own vitality rather than harm it." Lyris paused and turned her gaze toward Kale. "Are you saying this is not a threat?" Kale nodded. "By all current analysis, it is unprecedented but stable. The child is extraordinary. It may be the first of a new era for our species." The queen's anger shifted into a mix of disbelief and suspicion. Her scales glimmered with a faint red hue, a sign of emotional intensity in her species. She gestured for silence. "Bring the council. We will determine the meaning of this miracle or this crime." Within the hour, the royal council gathered. It was a diverse assembly, representing every major faction within Velaris Prime. Some members were visibly shaken, while others wore expressions of fear or awe. Ethan was placed in a protective chamber adjacent to the council hall. The doors were transparent, allowing him to see the proceedings but not participate. The council debated fiercely. Some argued that Ethan should be executed immediately to prevent further instability. Others insisted that he was a living key to the survival of their species. The queen listened silently, her eyes flicking occasionally toward the chamber where Ethan waited. An archivist named Noma finally spoke, her voice calm but firm. Ancient records speak of adaptability as the missing element in our royal lineage. Pureblood attempts have failed repeatedly. There was speculation, long dismissed, that a foreign species with compatible traits could succeed where we could not. It seems the human is that species. Murmurs swept through the council. The queen's fury had not abated, but curiosity flickered in her gaze. Ethan's mind raced. He had never considered himself special or important. He was just a human soldier sent to observe and follow orders. Yet here he was, central to an event that could reshape an entire alien civilization. Night fell over the spire, though the golden lights inside gave the illusion of perpetual day. Ethan lay on a simple cot in the protective chamber, thinking over every moment of the day. He could hear distant voices, the muffled arguments of the council. A sense of foreboding pressed on him. This was not going to be simple. Survival here would require more than following instructions. It would require understanding an entirely alien culture and navigating a web of politics far beyond anything he had encountered on Earth. Suddenly, the chamber door slid open, and Kale entered. "Ethan, I am not your jailer. I am your ally if you will allow it. The Queen's fury is as much fear as it is anger. You must understand her people. The next few days will determine whether you live or become a symbol of failure." Ethan nodded, swallowing hard. "I'll do what I can, but I don't even understand how this happened," Kale sighed. "It is beyond our understanding. Perhaps it is human adaptability or some unforeseen genetic resonance. What matters now is control. The child grows within the Queen. Its existence is no longer symbolic. It is real, and it will change everything." Outside, the city of Velaris Prime sparkled under the light of multiple moons. The citizens went about their lives, unaware that a single human man had already altered the course of history. In the royal spire, chaos and wonder mingled. Ethan lay on his cot trying to imagine the impossible, a hybrid child that could carry the potential of two worlds. Hours passed, and the council sessions dragged into the night. The queen, Lyris, sat in silent contemplation. Her multiple eyes glimmered with a red hue, her body tense with suppressed rage and disbelief. She could feel the child growing, a rhythm that pulsed alongside her own life. For centuries, she had faced failure, watching every attempt to produce an heir end in disappointment. Now this human had done what no Valerian could achieve. Ethan, too, was unable to sleep. He thought of Earth, of his family and friends, and of the mission that had seemed routine. Nothing in his training had prepared him for this. He was trapped in a world of alien politics with the fate of a species, and perhaps the galaxy, resting in part on him. Then the spire trembled. A low hum resonated through the walls, stronger than any ambient energy Ethan had felt before. Kale ran into the chamber, his expression urgent. "The prophecy vault has been unsealed. It is time. The Queen must see it. The Council has approved the reading. The truth, or perhaps the warning, is about to be revealed." Ethan's heart pounded. He had survived combat missions and diplomatic negotiations, but nothing could have prepared him for a prophecy that might dictate his fate. Outside, the golden walls of the royal spire flickered with the light of ancient scripts coming to life. The Queen's fury, the Council's fear, and the extraordinary presence of a human all converged in this moment. As Kale led Ethan to the vault, the air shimmered with energy, the walls alive with inscriptions. The prophecy had not been read in centuries, and its contents were meant to guide or warn the queen in times of great upheaval. Ethan felt a chill. If what the prophecy said applied to him, then the future was uncertain, dangerous, and possibly magnificent. The chamber door closed behind them, sealing them in with the ancient texts. Ethan had no idea what he was about to witness, only that his life, and the life of the Valerian queen, was about to change forever. Outside, the spire's lights dimmed slightly, the city below unaware that a single human had already begun a story far beyond imagination. The day after the startling revelation, Queen Lyris paced her private chamber. Her scales shimmered with a faint red glow, signaling her anger. She could not believe that a human, a being she had considered fragile and weak, had done what generations of her people could not. Yet the data was undeniable. The child was developing within her, stable and strong. Ethan remained in the protective wing of the spire, guarded by Valerian sentries and a small team of humans led by Captain Rourke. Despite the security, he felt trapped. Every step he took was watched, every movement analyzed. He understood why the queen was furious. From her perspective, his existence alone was a challenge to her authority and pride. But Ethan knew he had done nothing beyond following instructions. The royal council convened again, this time with a more urgent tone. The queen demanded answers, and the factions within the council argued more fiercely than ever. Some nobles called for immediate execution, claiming that the hybrid child could destabilize the royal line. Others argued that Ethan's presence might be the only way to save their species from extinction. Kale, the senior advisor, tried to calm the council. "Your Majesty, the child's development is not harmful. In fact, the Queen's health has improved. This may be a sign that the union is beneficial." Lyris, eyes narrowed. "Beneficial? Do you think I would call a human's intrusion beneficial when it carries the future of my line within me?" A council member, Elder Taryn, stepped forward. "Your Majesty, we must consider the possibility that this child is more than a simple hybrid. The data suggests enhanced genetic potential, not just viability. We cannot ignore this opportunity." Meanwhile, unrest began to ripple through the city outside. Citizens were aware that something unusual had occurred within the royal spire, though details were scarce. Rumors spread quickly. Some feared that the queen had been cursed, others whispered that the human was a miraculous savior. The political tension was palpable, and extremist groups known as the Pure Circle saw this as a moment to strike. Ethan knew that the situation was delicate. One wrong move could cost him his life. Kale visited him in the chamber, speaking quietly so that no sentries could hear. "The queen's anger is as much fear as it is rage. You must understand her perspective. To her people, a human producing a viable heir is unthinkable, but fear can be controlled. You must demonstrate value and restraint." Ethan nodded. "I will, but what do I say? I don't even know how this happened." Kale sighed. "You speak truth, and that is your strength. Honesty will buy you time. Time is what we need right now." The queen's chamber was filled with tension as she considered the prophecy vault that had been unsealed the previous night. Ancient texts spoke of extraordinary events, and Ethan's presence fit the description of an unforeseen catalyst. Lyris began reviewing the records herself, hoping to find guidance. The scripts spoke of a being from a distant world who would bring change, for better or worse, to the Valerian line. The realization unsettled her. If the prophecy was accurate, Ethan was no accident. He was part of a larger plan that neither she nor her council could control. Yet, her anger was not diminished. It was replaced with a complicated mixture of suspicion, awe, and fear. Late that evening, Ethan was brought to the council hall to address a private session with Lyris and a few trusted advisors. The queen's eyes glimmered in the dim light. "Human, she said, her voice low but commanding. "Explain yourself." "How did you manage what my people could not?" Ethan bowed his head slightly. "Your Majesty, I followed the instructions exactly as given. I do not know why this happened. I only did as I was asked." Lyra studied him, her multiple eyes scanning his face for any sign of deceit. Finding none, she allowed a small measure of curiosity to replace her anger. "You are an enigma, Ethan Hale, and now you are entwined with the future of my species. The Council must decide whether you are a blessing or a threat." The Council members continued their heated debate. Some argued that keeping Ethan alive was essential, while others warned that the human's presence alone was dangerous. Elder Taryn suggested a compromise. Ethan should be placed under the Queen's supervision and given a role to protect the child's development. This idea was met with resistance from the extremist nobles, but the Queen allowed it to pass. She needed to see his actions, not just his words. Over the following days, Ethan learned more about Valerian society and the pressures the Queen faced. He was introduced to Commander Silent, a loyal military officer who had pledged his life to protecting the Queen. Silent was wary of Ethan, questioning whether a human could be trusted in such an important role. But after observing Ethan's restraint and intelligence, Silent began to respect him. Meanwhile, the Pure Circle grew bolder. They launched a propaganda campaign, accusing the Queen of betraying her people by allowing a human to influence the royal line. Rumors spread, and riots erupted in minor districts of the city. The Queen's advisors feared that the unrest could escalate into a full-scale rebellion, if not contained quickly. Cale worked with Ethan to devise strategies that would protect the Queen and the child. They studied the city's patterns, learning where unrest was most likely to occur and predicting the extremists' moves. Ethan applied human tactical thinking, suggesting ways to reinforce security without triggering panic. One evening, as the city lights flickered below the spire, the Queen summoned Ethan to her private chamber. She was visibly calmer but still radiated intensity. "You have surprised me, human," she said. "Your mind is sharp and your instincts unusual. I do not trust easily, yet I find myself considering your advice. That alone is remarkable." Ethan bowed slightly. "Your Majesty, I only wish to help. I understand the danger my presence causes, but I also see the potential for good. I do not seek power or favor, only to ensure the safety of you and the child." Lyris regarded him silently for a long moment. Then she spoke, her tone quieter than before. "You are more resilient than I expected. Perhaps that is why the child exists. Perhaps it is not merely chance but destiny. Yet destiny can be dangerous. Do you understand that, Ethan Hale?" "I do, Your Majesty," he replied, "and I am ready to face whatever comes." As the days passed, the Queen began to observe the subtle ways in which Ethan's presence influenced the palace. His calm reasoning, his honesty, and his courage in the face of fear began to affect those around him. Commander Silent noted that soldiers and attendants were more disciplined, less prone to panic. Even Cale admitted that Ethan's human traits brought a new perspective that Valerians had never considered. The Pure Circle, however, did not relent. They attempted a covert attack on the royal spire, hoping to eliminate Ethan before the child could be born. Their plan was foiled by the combined efforts of human and Valerian security forces. The extremists were captured, and the Queen used the event to demonstrate her authority, showing that the hybrid child's presence was a symbol of unity and strength, not weakness. Ethan, despite the danger, continued to assist with strategic planning. He was careful not to overstep his role, understanding that the Queen's patience was finite. Yet his insights proved invaluable, helping to stabilize the spire and protect the population from further riots. One evening, Cale approached Ethan with a serious expression. "The Queen is beginning to see the potential of your presence beyond the child. She may be angry, but she is learning to respect your abilities. If we can navigate the next few weeks without catastrophe, your survival is likely. But the political landscape is volatile. Do not let your guard down. Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility. He had been sent on a mission he thought simple, but now he carried the future of a species on his shoulders. The Queen's fury had shifted into a complex mixture of suspicion, awe, and begrudging respect. Every decision mattered, and every misstep could result in disaster. Late at night, Ethan gazed out over the city. The lights shimmered, reflecting the calm surface of a world teetering on the edge of change. Somewhere within the spire, the Queen slept, or at least appeared to. The child inside her grew steadily, an unknown force that would soon demand attention and action. Ethan felt both fear and determination. He could not change the past. He could not undo what had been done. All he could do was prepare for the future, navigating a web of alien politics, rebellion, and prophecy that was far beyond anything he had faced before. The days ahead would test his courage, his intelligence, and his ability to survive in a world where humans were outsiders, yet central to the destiny of an entire species. As the first moon rose over Velaris Prime, a low hum resonated through the royal spire. It was the same energy that had enveloped Ethan during the ceremonial test. He felt it deep within him, a reminder that his presence was no accident. The Queen's fury, the Council's fear, and the extraordinary reality of the hybrid child all converged in this moment. The night was quiet for now, but Ethan knew the calm would not last. The pure circle remained a threat, the city was unsettled, and the prophecy vault hinted at unknown challenges ahead. Yet for the first time, he felt a glimmer of hope. With careful action, honesty, and courage, he might survive, and perhaps help shape a future that neither humans nor Valerians could have imagined. Ethan spent the next morning observing the palace routines and learning more about Valerian society. The Queen's advisors were tense, still adjusting to the fact that a human was central to their future. Commander Silent had been tasked with teaching Ethan the basic protocols of Valerian military and royal etiquette. It was not easy. The aliens' language included subtle tones and body movements that humans struggled to mimic. But Ethan learned quickly, determined to earn their trust. Queen Lyris continued to watch Ethan carefully. She did not show it outwardly, but she was intrigued by his intelligence and resilience. Every day, she noticed that he understood situations quickly, anticipated problems, and acted with caution and insight. She had never met a human personally, and the contrast to her species' methods was striking. Where Valerians relied on centuries of tradition and hierarchy, Ethan relied on reasoning and adaptability. Kale explained the situation further. The child inside the Queen grows rapidly, far faster than a Valerian would expect. Its development may be linked to human adaptability and resilience. You, Ethan, are a key part of this process, whether you understand it or not. Ethan nodded, feeling a mixture of awe and fear. He had never imagined being part of something so significant. His life, once ordinary, now revolved around the Queen, her child, and the delicate balance of power within the spire. Meanwhile, the pure circle continued to stir unrest in the city. They spread propaganda that the Queen had been dishonored by a human and that the hybrid child was an abomination. Small riots broke out in minor districts, though the main city remained calm thanks to the efforts of security forces. Ethan and Commander Silent observed the situation closely, planning ways to prevent escalation. One evening, Lyris called Ethan to her private chamber. She was tense, her scales glowing faintly. "Human, do you realize the magnitude of what has occurred? Your presence has changed everything, yet you still act as if this is routine." "I understand, Your Majesty," Ethan replied, bowing slightly. "I do not fully understand why this happened, but I know the child is important." I only wish to help keep you safe and assist where I can." The queen regarded him silently. She had expected arrogance or fear, but instead, Ethan's humility and focus impressed her. "You are unusual," she said finally. "I do not trust easily, yet I see that your mind works differently. Perhaps this difference is why the child exists." Ethan felt a slight relief, but he knew this did not mean complete trust. Lyra's anger was still present, simmering beneath the surface, but it had transformed into something more complex: curiosity and perhaps grudging respect. Over the next few days, Ethan was allowed more freedom within the palace. He worked with Kale and Commander Silent to plan defensive measures against the Pure Circle and to address the unrest in the city. He suggested ways to increase public confidence without showing weakness, strategies that combined human reasoning with Valerian knowledge. His ideas were tested cautiously, and early results were promising. The Queen, while observing these efforts, began to understand that Ethan's presence could be an asset. She had been raised to rely solely on Valerian methods, but this human-introduced approaches she had never considered. His perspective challenged her assumptions and gave her new ways to approach her responsibilities. One afternoon, while reviewing city reports, the Queen noticed an unusual pattern. The riots were concentrated in areas controlled by extremist factions. She called Ethan and Kale to her chamber. "These disturbances are not random. They are coordinated. Someone seeks to exploit fear, to destabilize the spire while the council debates your fate, human." Ethan examined the reports carefully. "It seems the Pure Circle is trying to force your hand. They want to provoke action that could be used against you politically. We need to respond with precision, not force." The Queen's multiple eyes narrowed. "You are suggesting we act strategically rather than with power. That is not our usual way." "Exactly," Ethan replied. "They rely on our predictability. If we adapt and respond differently, we can maintain control without escalating violence." Lyris considered this, and then she nodded. "Very well. We will follow your advice, human, but know this: any failure will be blamed on you." Ethan bowed. "Understood, Your Majesty. I will not fail." That night, as the city slept under multiple moons, Ethan and Commander Silent coordinated the deployment of security forces. They used subtle measures, rerouting crowds, distributing supplies to reduce tension, and communicating with local leaders to maintain calm. The approach was successful. The riots subsided, and the extremists' influence was limited. The Queen observed the outcome silently. She had expected chaos, but the city had been stabilized. Ethan's methods, so different from Valerian tradition, had worked. She felt a mixture of relief and disbelief. Perhaps humans had abilities she had underestimated. In private, Kale explained further. "The Queen's body is responding well to the child. Her health has improved since conception. Some theorize that the hybrid nature of the child is enhancing her vitality. This is unprecedented." Ethan felt a strange sense of responsibility. The child was not just a symbol, it was real, affecting the Queen's health and the political stability of the spire. He had to be careful, thoughtful, and ready for anything. Days later, the Queen summoned him again. "Human, you have proven your usefulness in managing the city and guiding the council. Yet the extremists are not gone. They plot still. I need to know if you can handle direct confrontation." Ethan nodded. "I will do whatever is necessary to protect you and the child. I am prepared to act if needed." The Queen considered him for a long moment. "Very well. You will accompany me on a patrol of the city districts. I want to see for myself how you respond to real threats." Ethan prepared for the patrol, understanding that it would test not only his skill but his ability to earn the Queen's trust. Commander Silent provided guidance, and Kale advised on protocols. They left the spire quietly, moving through the streets that had been tense and watchful for days. During the patrol, Ethan observed the subtle signs of unrest and anticipated potential flare-ups. When a small group of extremists tried to provoke violence, he acted quickly, using communication and presence rather than force to defuse the situation. The Queen watched closely, her expression unreadable. By the end of the patrol, the Queen spoke softly, almost to herself. The human, he thinks differently. He does not rely on brute strength, yet he commands respect. This may be why the child exists. Perhaps this human's mind is as important as his presence. Ethan overheard but said nothing. He understood that trust was earned through action, not words. Back at the spire, the council convened to review the results of the patrol. Ethan was praised for his quick thinking and careful planning. Even the skeptical nobles began to acknowledge that his methods had merit. The Queen remained quiet, observing the council's reactions. She felt a strange combination of anger, respect, and curiosity. The child within her continued to grow, a symbol of an unprecedented union that was changing her perspective on human potential. That evening, Ethan reflected on the events. He had entered Velaris Prime expecting a routine mission. Now he was central to a species, survival, a queen's trust, and the development of a hybrid child. The stakes were higher than anything he had faced. He understood that each day would bring new challenges, new tests of courage, intelligence, and patience. The Queen, Lyris, remained vigilant. She knew the hybrid child could unite her people or divide them further. She had to navigate this carefully, balancing fury, fear, and the faint spark of respect she was beginning to feel for Ethan. As the twin moons of Velaris Prime shone over the city, a low hum echoed through the royal spire. It was the same energy that had connected Ethan and the Queen during the ceremonial test. He felt it deep within himself, a reminder that his presence was no accident. The child was real, and its existence was changing the course of history. Ethan lay awake that night, knowing the coming days would bring more challenges. The pure circle still plotted, the city's unrest could flare again, and the Queen's fury, tempered now with curiosity, was unpredictable. Yet he felt a glimmer of hope. With careful thought, honesty, and courage, he might not only survive but also help shape a future that neither humans nor Valerians could have imagined. Outside, the city slept under the shimmering light of multiple moons, unaware that the actions of one human man were already altering the destiny of a civilization. The Queen's fury had shifted into a complex mix of suspicion, awe, and cautious respect. The hybrid child's presence was both a threat and a promise, and the days ahead would test every ounce of strength and intellect that Ethan Hale possessed. Tensions escalated quickly as the pure circle intensified their plans. The extremists, seeing the Queen's trust in a human as a betrayal of Valerian tradition, began mobilizing forces in the outer districts. Their aim was to seize control of critical facilities, including the spaceport and the armory, to force the council into submission. Ethan studied the situation with Kale and Commander Silent. He had learned much about Valerian tactics, but the extremists were unpredictable, relying on both fear and deception. "They want to provoke a reaction," Ethan said. "If we respond with brute force, they'll claim tyranny. We need to anticipate their moves, block them without escalation, and keep the public calm." Silent nodded. "Agreed, but your strategy is unusual. Valerians usually respond directly. I hope your plan works." Ethan and the team implemented subtle measures to secure key points. They deployed loyalists in disguise, created controlled roadblocks, and rerouted supply lines to maintain stability. The extremists tried to manipulate the population, but Ethan's approach prevented panic. His methods relied on reasoning, observation, and anticipation rather than sheer power. Queen Lyris observed all of this from the royal spire. Her anger had not disappeared, but it had transformed into a complex mixture of fear, curiosity, and grudging respect. She could feel the child within her, whose presence seemed to enhance her vitality rather than weaken it. This was unprecedented, even for Valerians. The extremists, frustrated by their inability to provoke chaos, launched a desperate attack on the spaceport. Ethan had anticipated this. Using a combination of human tactics and Valerian defense strategies, he coordinated an ambush that trapped the extremists before they could cause significant damage. Loyalist forces captured many of the attackers and the remaining scattered into hiding. After the skirmish, Lyris summoned Ethan. Her scales glimmered faintly, her eyes focused on him intently. "You have done well. Your methods, they succeed where our own traditions would have failed. Perhaps I underestimated humans." Ethan bowed slightly. "Your Majesty, I only aim to help. I understand the dangers and I will continue to act with care." The Queen's voice softened, though still firm. "This child inside me represents more than life. It represents potential, change, and power. Your presence may have ensured its survival. You carry responsibility beyond what any human could imagine." Ethan felt the weight of her words. The child was not just a symbol, it was a living part of a future that he had never expected. He realized that every action, every decision could influence the Queen, the Council, and the people of Velaris Prime. Meanwhile, the city began to stabilize. The people witnessed the Queen's authority reinforced, the extremists captured, and the calm restored. Ethan's strategies, though subtle, had proven effective. Commander Silent admitted openly that the humans' approach had saved the city from potential disaster. The council convened to discuss the aftermath. Some nobles were reluctant to accept Ethan's role, still viewing him as an outsider. Others acknowledged that his strategies had prevented rebellion and protected the Queen. Elder Terran addressed the council. "This human has demonstrated insight and courage. He has not only protected the Queen but preserved stability. Perhaps it is time to reconsider our reliance solely on Valerian methods." Lyris, seated on her throne, observed silently. She felt a mixture of pride and cautious respect for Ethan. The hybrid child was growing steadily within her, a sign of unprecedented possibility. She knew that what had begun as fury now required careful planning, patience, and trust. Days passed, and Ethan continued to assist in stabilizing the city, advising on security, and preparing for any potential threats. The Queen began to study him more closely, observing how he acted under pressure, how he thought, and how he influenced those around him. His human instincts, adaptability, and courage impressed her, even as she struggled with her initial anger. One evening, Kale approached Ethan with urgency. "The Council has approved an initiative to engage directly with the extremists' remaining forces. They plan to negotiate, but the situation is volatile. The Queen wants your input." Ethan reviewed the plans carefully. He proposed a strategy that combined careful diplomacy with subtle shows of authority. The aim was to reduce resistance while maintaining control, avoiding unnecessary bloodshed. His plan was accepted, and preparations began. The negotiation session was tense. The extremists expected the Queen to act with traditional Valerian dominance. Instead, Ethan's guidance led to calm, measured responses. His approach surprised everyone, including the extremists, who found themselves outmaneuvered without realizing it. Slowly, they agreed to terms that limited their influence and reinforced the Queen's authority. After the successful negotiations, the Queen addressed Ethan privately. "You have changed how I see strategy, human. Your mind works differently. Where my species relies on strength and history, you rely on reason and foresight. This may be why the child exists." Ethan bowed. "Your Majesty, I only hope to serve and protect. I do not seek recognition or power, only the safety of you and the child." The Queen nodded, her multiple eyes reflecting a faint glow of approval. "Your humility is unusual, human. Perhaps that is part of your strength. The child is our future, and your actions have safeguarded it." In the weeks that followed, stability returned to the city. The pure circle had been neutralized, their influence significantly reduced. The Queen's Council, while still wary, began to accept Ethan's presence and methods as valuable. Commander Cylon openly acknowledged his respect for the human, noting that he had never seen such effectiveness in dealing with civil unrest. Ethan, despite the challenges, began to feel a cautious sense of purpose. He had arrived expecting a routine mission, yet he had become a central figure in a story far beyond his imagination. The Queen's fury had shifted into curiosity and respect, and the hybrid child continued to grow, a living symbol of unprecedented union. Late one night, as the twin moons cast silver light over the spire, Ethan looked out over the city. The streets were quiet, the people calm, yet he knew this peace was temporary. The hybrid child, the Queen's continued anger, and the unpredictable political forces meant that challenges would return. He understood that he could not afford complacency. Inside the spire, the Queen meditated in her chamber. She could feel the child moving, its presence a constant reminder of change, responsibility, and potential. Her fury had transformed into determination. She would protect the child, guide it, and perhaps even learn from the human who had altered the course of Valerian history. Ethan lay awake in his quarters, thinking about the days ahead. He knew that survival depended on intelligence, courage, and adaptability. The Queen's respect was a fragile thing, the Council's support conditional, and the extremists could return. Yet he felt a quiet confidence. The child's existence was proof that unexpected combinations could produce extraordinary results. He had already seen it firsthand. The spire was quiet, but the energy that had connected Ethan and the Queen during the ceremonial test still pulsed softly through the walls. It was a reminder that the hybrid child was more than a symbol. It was real, alive, and central to the future. As the night deepened, Ethan understood that the coming days would test him in ways he could not yet imagine, and that every choice would carry weight beyond his understanding. The city of Valaris Prime had regained a fragile calm, but the sense of looming uncertainty remained. Ethan knew that even though the extremists had been neutralized, their influence and the tensions they had caused were not easily erased. The Queen, Lyris, was more composed now, though she remained vigilant. The hybrid child continued to grow within her, and its presence had already changed her in ways she did not fully understand. Ethan spent the morning reviewing reports with Commander Cylon and Kale. The extremists had scattered into remote districts, but intelligence indicated that they were regrouping. Ethan proposed a plan to integrate them peacefully or monitor them closely, rather than using brute force that could spark another wave of unrest. The Council, impressed by his previous successes, agreed to implement his strategy cautiously. Meanwhile, Queen Lyris spent her time observing the hybrid child's effects on her body and the palace. She noticed an increase in energy and focus, as though the child within her amplified her vitality. She could feel its presence as a rhythmic pulse, a constant reminder of the extraordinary bond between human and Valerian. She could not deny that Ethan's role was essential, yet her fury, though tempered, still lingered. Ethan continued to work closely with the Queen, advising on security, politics, and city administration. His unique perspective, blending human adaptability with Valerian tradition, began to influence the Council as well. Slowly, they started to see him not as a threat but as an asset. Commander Cylon's approval became more open, acknowledging Ethan's ability to protect the Queen and the city with a combination of strategy, foresight, and careful diplomacy. One day, an urgent message arrived from the outer districts. A group of extremists had attempted to seize a communications hub, intending to broadcast propaganda to the entire city. Ethan quickly devised a plan to intercept them. Using a combination of surveillance, controlled negotiation, and strategic positioning, he neutralized the threat without significant bloodshed. The extremists were captured and restrained, their plans foiled once again. The queen observed the operation closely. She had expected chaos and violence, but Ethan's careful and methodical approach had prevented both. Her fury at the human's intrusion into her life was slowly transforming into a complex mix of respect and acknowledgement. She spoke to him privately. "You continue to defy my expectations, human. I did not believe your methods could succeed where ours might fail. Yet here we are. You have preserved life, order, and stability." Ethan bowed. "Your Majesty, I only wish to serve. I understand the responsibility I carry, and I will continue to act with caution and dedication." The queen's eyes reflected the faint glow of appreciation, mixed with the lingering trace of anger. "You are human, yet your actions demonstrate understanding, foresight, and restraint. Perhaps this child was meant to exist because of you." As days turned into weeks, the hybrid child's presence continued to influence the queen's behavior and the palace environment. Her vitality increased, her decision-making sharpened, and the city gradually stabilized. Citizens began to notice that the queen's demeanor had changed. She was more composed, yet stronger, and her leadership had become more effective. Rumors of a human working alongside her spread quietly, creating curiosity rather than fear among the population. The queen convened the council to announce a new initiative. The hybrid child represented not just continuity but potential, a symbol of unity and progress. She emphasized the importance of collaboration between humans and Valerians, highlighting Ethan's role in ensuring stability. The council, still cautious, began to acknowledge that his presence had changed the dynamics in ways that benefited the entire society. Ethan, while still careful and respectful, began to feel a sense of accomplishment. He had arrived expecting a routine mission, yet he had become central to the survival and progress of an alien civilization. The hybrid child was a living testament to what could happen when adaptability, intelligence, and courage intersected across species. Late one night, the queen summoned Ethan to her chamber. Her expression was more contemplative than angry. "Ethan, you have changed how I see not only humans but the potential of my own people. Your strategies, your thinking, and your restraint have preserved life and order where chaos might have prevailed. This child's existence may have saved our species." Ethan bowed respectfully. "Your Majesty, I did what I could. I do not claim credit. I only hope to continue protecting you and the child." The queen studied him silently for a long moment, then spoke softly. "Perhaps humans are more than I understood. Perhaps we have been too limited in our perspective. You, human, may have proven that strength is not always measured in power, but in wisdom, adaptability, and courage." Ethan felt a mixture of relief and responsibility. The queen's words were rare, and the acknowledgement of his impact was more than he had hoped for. Yet he knew that challenges would continue. The extremists, though diminished, could return. Political rivalries persisted within the council, and the hybrid child, though developing well, represented unprecedented changes that no one could fully predict. In the days that followed, Ethan continued to advise the queen, guide the council, and stabilize the city. His human perspective, once considered an outsider's influence, had become essential to maintaining order and preparing for future threats. The queen's respect grew, tempered by her own experience, intelligence, and instincts. She began to consider the possibilities the child represented, a bridge between species, a new path for Valerians, and perhaps a future alliance with humanity. Finally, the queen addressed Ethan privately once more. "Ethan Hale, you have survived challenges that would have broken others. You have preserved my life, the city, and this child. You have proven your value beyond measure. I do not fully understand why the universe placed you here, but I recognize that your presence has altered our course forever." Ethan bowed, understanding the weight of her words. "Your Majesty, I am honored. I will continue to serve and protect. The child's safety and the future of your people remain my priority." The queen nodded, a faint glow of approval reflecting in her eyes. She felt the child move within her, its presence a living testament to change, potential, and unity. For centuries, Valerians had faced challenges in producing heirs. Now, a human had unknowingly altered the course of history. The queen realized that the future was uncertain, yet filled with promise. She could feel the path forward, guided by courage, intelligence, and unexpected alliances. Ethan looked out over the city, the twin moons casting silver light across the streets and spires. The energy from the ceremonial test still resonated softly in the walls of the palace, a constant reminder that the hybrid child was real, alive, and central to the future. Every choice, every action would carry weight. Yet for the first time, Ethan felt a sense of purpose beyond his understanding, a role in shaping the destiny of a civilization far beyond his own world. The queen, Lyris, and the human, Ethan, stood at the threshold of a new era. Their collaboration, tension, and respect had created a fragile but promising balance. The hybrid child represented hope, change, and the extraordinary potential that could arise from unexpected unions. As the night deepened over Valaris Prime, both human and queen understood that the future was theirs to navigate, and that the extraordinary journey was only just beginning.